For some reason, everyone in Rivals thinks Vanguards are supposed to just mindlessly stand up front and soak damage like good boys. But a good tank really is like solid gold whenever you get one on your team. If you don't know me, I'm NotoriousDuB. I actually just hit rank 4 on Hella, so say congrats in the comments, please. I need an ego boost. And this is my next iteration of the Season of the Solo Carry series, where I, an exclusively solo queue player, go over everything I know about solo carrying in Marvel Rivals to make it a little bit easier for you. So subscribe if you want to see more of the solo carry series, drop a like, comment W down below, and let's roll. The easiest way to carry as a Vanguard, by far, is just turning around. It's as simple as it gets, but how often do you actually do it? How often do you die, turn your camera, and see your duelists off looking for a 1v1 or your Rocket Raccoon tucked into a doorway, playing house, spitting out orbs that have no chance at ever reaching you? I'm not saying just turn around to peel for your supports either. When turning around, you're looking for information that helps with engagement timings, peel opportunities, and optimizing sightlines. Engagement timing is the most overlooked and underrated skill in all the tank's playbooks. And it's all about initiating whenever your team's ready. You're the tank, so you're the shot caller and the facilitator for your team at the same time. If you go in before your duelist is there, you're ruining sweep potential on the initial engagement of the fight that's super chaotic, and you're increasing the chances that your supports end up having to drop their ults before your team's in position to make plays off of it. If your supports have to ult before both of your duelists are there to play off of it, it's a high chance that that fight kind of stalls out. Maybe you don't even force out the enemy support's ult, because the people with the most kill pressure aren't there to actually pressure for kills. Engage too early and you risk staggering by having someone die before the team's actually ready, and engage too late and you risk staggering by forcing a fight whenever you're down pressure. Turn around and take note of your team's posture. If they're ready to fight, make it happen. If they're not, just take a chill pill. You'll almost never lose the game by waiting an extra 5 seconds. But having to end up using utility that takes another 3 minutes to recharge will lose you games a ton. Overlooking peel opportunities is the bane of the Marvel Rivals player base, and in my opinion, was a huge factor that led to that big support strike that we had. But it's also the key to carrying as a Vanguard. On the off chance that you're on strike and you refuse to peel for your supports for some reason, which there are reasons not to peel, you instead have to hold that space while they're getting dove. And in both situations, you do have to turn around. Best case scenario, you turn around before you make the initial engagement, which you should be doing most of the time, and you see the Iron Fist, Black Panther, Venom, Spider-Man, etc. sitting on a wall waiting to dive your backline. Then you collapse immediately. Worst case scenario, you get information on how ready your team is to actually fight and what they need from you to be successful. And there are situations where you just shouldn't peel. And in that situation, you just need to hold space for them. If you're playing Strange and a Hulk is jumping past you, you can't do much about it. You're probably better off just keeping your shield up and blocking the incoming healing from reaching him, or actually encroaching on the enemy team's backline and taking that space that's not being fought for currently. So once the Hulk is actually fought off by your backline, he jumps back to where he was initially and actually has less safe space to play around, giving them more time to actually get the kill. Now, if your backline has no support, I'm talking double diver duelists with a Venom as your off tank on your team, it doesn't matter what immobile tank you're playing. Against all odds, you have to walk back to your healers and give up all of the space that you've taken so far. If they have no protection, you have no support. Be the one to do it. No matter how good you are at peeling, you have to if they have no one else. Quick examples, if you have a Namor supporting your backline and a Hela as the second duelist, something like that, you're probably totally fine against a solo Hulk or solo Venom that's diving. They just need time to actually burn through that health pool, so hold your space and make sure the enemy team's backline can't heal their diver. If it's a Spider-Man that's diving, everyone with range should turn and look because you have less than a second to get the kill off on him whenever he dives, so everyone needs to chip in no matter what. And in the case of Iron Fist, Panther, Magic, etc., those are kind of the middle ground, where you have to answer that more often than hold ground, but that's a judgment call to make mid-game that you're going to have to work on a little bit. Now, line of sights are something that everyone ignores way too much in Marvel Rivals. We've all had tanks walk forward, die around a corner, and immediately turn around to blame the healers. And I know you don't want to hear this because apparently everyone hates duelists, but it's your job, as a tank, to understand everyone on your team's sightlines, including your duelists. The easy strat is just to play in the line of sights of your teammates and hold the deep parts of their lines of sight that you're gaining by taking space. Let me kind of simplify it to this. So Hela is a long-range pick character that's relatively immobile, who now excels in long-range straight-line fights, whereas someone like Star-Lord kind of excels in tight corners and close-quarter combat fights. Take a map like Yggdrasil Path. It's great for characters like Hella Punisher and Hawkeye, who love the long sightlines, which means you as a tank want to take space aggressively along those long sightlines, but understand that whenever it comes to the corners, those are hard sticking points for your team, so you have to kind of take your time with and work through the fights. Star-Lord, Wanda, and Psylocke, on the other hand, are great with the closer range kind of corner fight styles. So the inverse is true. Be more cautious whenever you're taking space around long sightlines, because that's where you're vulnerable, but be aggressive and confident whenever you're around the close quarter combat areas, around corners. That way you can kind of sweep through those fights and carry you through those longer range fights that you're weaker in. The number one thing you'll hear thrown around about how to carry as a tank is taking space, but it's always overcomplicated when in reality it's the simplest concept ever. Taking space, at least in one aspect, is simply walking forward. And as a tank, that initially applies pressure to the enemy backline, which almost all tanks do very well besides maybe Penny Parker. That in itself is considered taking space. But the more nuanced version, and more important as you get higher and higher elo, is the concept of moving from cover to cover. In map design of any game, especially first-person shooters, there are natural power angles that just naturally give you more value just by playing them, whether it's height advantage, easy escape paths, or safe paths to the flank for the enemy team. Take Spider Islands, the map that everyone knows. That first point, the main building on your left, is a major power angle, because it has exit points towards the enemy team's backline no matter which way you're coming from, safe escapes no matter which way you're coming from, and natural height advantage through the use of the stairs. The team that controls that area has a very high chance of winning the fight around the choke point. Your job as a tank, going beyond just walking down the enemy backline, is to identify these power angles as you go through, force the enemies out of them, play them, and eventually progress past them to allow your squishier characters to play them more effectively. That's the 1-2-3 of solo carrying as a tank. This looks different for different tanks though, whereas high mobility tanks, kind of like Captain America and Venom, are actively slamming on the power angle targets. Someone like Magneto instead should completely ignore tanks in the enemy team's backline until he's dealt with the power angles. He has long range, so he can kind of force the Hela off of her angles, get Namor off of his high grounds, things like that. He wants to put everyone into a passive hold position. If there's one thing I could give you that would skyrocket your win rate today, is to learn how to create distractions. And the key to turning that into one team fights and one games is what I call high quality distractions. And a high quality distraction is something that now allows your team to do what they do best. If you have a team with a ton of sustained damage that kind of burns down enemy front lines, a high quality distraction is then going to be anything you can do to annoy the enemy team's backline in any capacity. If they have to focus on surviving and can't heal for even 3 seconds, even if it's just a Rocket Raccoon or a Jeff that you know you can't kill, there's a high chance that their tank is going to go down to your Punisher Star-Lord combo behind you. If you have a backline pressure on your team, a high quality distraction is then causing the enemy team to fully commit to a fight. Landing crowd control on key squishies or dumping an ult for pressure are easy ways to do that. With divers on your team, you kind of lack consistent damage output, so you never really force commitments in your fights. So you have to go to the extremes. As an example, if you're playing Hulk and your magic can't really find a way in, all the fights are stalling out, just jump to the enemy team's backline, get your ult off, and go crazy. If you trade ult for a support ult, it creates an almost guaranteed win at the end of this team fight if your team manages to survive, or at the beginning of the next team fight. Because a huge key to winning with divers on your team is having any kind of little tempo advantage. If the divers have to bait out all of the support's ults, then they never actually get value out of their dives. And it would take a full video to go over everything about creating high quality distractions, so if you're interested in a full video like that, please let me know in the comments. But the gist is, create a distraction that allows your team to do what they do best. As the Vanguard, you kind of have to view yourself as the manager of the team. Nothing really works without you. Your team can't walk forward without you, and if you walk backwards for more than a second or two, your team has to too, otherwise they're going to die. Which means you have to control the pace. And here are 3 cheat codes to doing that. Step 1, the other team needs to be in a defensive hold position. If their tanks are running amok, walking past you whenever they want to, you have to sit and slap them until they walk backwards and get to a defensive spot. This gives your team a lot of freedom to apply pressure, and they're not taking space away from you. Step 2, control the engagements. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but by that I mean, if you see someone out of position, even if they're at a power angle, be the first person to deal with it. It's very unlikely that you die in a 1v1, even if no one backs you up, but the fight follows the tank, so your team is likely to follow you if they see you going for that power angle. And controlling the engagement also means being the first person to drop the engagement, specifically when the other team drops a support ult first. It's common practice at this point to match support ult for support ult, but the only thing better than matching support ults is not using yours at all. This doesn't mean pull a pirate software, turn tail, say look at my mana, and let your entire team die, but communicate to fall back or just kite backwards slowly. Make sure you stay a little bit ahead of your team so you're still soaking most of the damage to help save your support's ult so you win the next fight for free, or at least allow your supports to delay their support ult so you can get the initiative at the end of this engagement. And 3, take advantage of your advantages. Controlling the pace means walking forward whenever someone gets a kill and walking backwards whenever someone dies. Unfortunately, being a tank means you're taking on the role of having good awareness. And far too often I see a teammate die and my team continue to fight until we full wipe and stagger endlessly, and on the flip side, it's far too often that I get a pick and no one actually presses the advantage. If your team is ever up in numbers, just walk forward more than you normally would. And if your team is down, just walk backwards more than you normally would and preserve your lives. Control the pace of the game. You're the tank, so realistically you control the engagements whether you like it or not. And as always, if you made it this far, you a real one. Drop a W in the comments, like the video, subscribe for more season of the Solo Carry series, and follow me on Twitch. I'll see you very, very soon. Peace.